Hello, my name is Owen Block. I go to Nichols School, and this is the Scouting app. There are different organizations and divisions for robotics competitions. For our purposes, we will focus on FIRST competitions and specifically their FIRST robotics competition, FRC, featuring a 120-pound robot, and FIRST Tech Challenge, FTC, featuring a 40-pound robot. Robots acquire points based on effective completion of a wide variety of tasks on a game field, from climbing to picking up and shooting balls. Additionally, your team works in tandem with one or two other teams in the competition. These randomly generated partners can greatly impact your scores and final ranks. Robots are ranked based on wins, so the highest ranked robots are not necessarily the best because they can be carried to that rank by better teams. Because the rank of a robot can be deceiving, it is important to scout all teams to get a better understanding of which robots are the best at specific skills, as well as which robots are actually the best overall. Additionally, it can be useful to know how well different robots perform special tasks, so that you can find a team that would enhance and complement your own style of play. The ultimate goal is building the best alliance of teams in the playoffs when randomization is concluded. Earlier, I said that robots earn ranking points based on wins, so let me walk you through this example of how that works. On the Red Alliance, there are 3 robots, 1, 2, and 3. On the Blue Alliance, there are also 3 robots, 4, 5, and 6. On the Red Alliance, Robot 1 scores 14 balls and earns 15 points in climb. Robot 2 scores 6 balls and earns 6 points in climb, and Robot 3 does not work. On the Blue Alliance, Robot 4 scores 7 balls and earns 6 points in climb. Robot 5 scores 6 balls and earns 6 points in climb, and Robot 6 scores 5 balls and earns 0 points in climb. So, the Red Alliance scored 20 balls to Blue's 19, which earns them the 20 balls ranking point, while Blue does not get it. And the Red Alliance scored 21 points in climb, earning them the ranking point, where Blue does not get it because they only scored 12. This also means, obviously, that Red will win the game. Why standings become inaccurate is that the Red Robot 3, which did not work, will rank higher than all the blue robots, even though they all did something and that robot didn't. That is why the Scouting app is important. Okay, so how does the Scouting app actually work? Well, each match is entered into the Scouting app beforehand, and so we can select a match and then select a team to scout. In this case, I'll select Team 3504. Now, inside Team 3504 Match 10, you can enter what this team did. So, for example, if in the autonomous period they scored in the upper hub twice and the lower hub once and moved off the tarmac, I would enter that. And then in the teleop period, say they scored in the upper hub 4 times and in the lower hub 4 times, I would enter that. And in the endgame, say they climbed high, I would enter that. And say they played some defense, I would enter that. And at this point, I would save and submit what happened. Let's try that again. Save, submit. There we go. Okay, so now for match 10, 3504 has been entered, which brings me to my next point, rankings. So we want to find 3504. In this case, because we're specifically looking for 3504, I'm going to use one of the Scouting app's abilities, which is to highlight. So let's select 3504, and let's select a color. I'm going to use blue, and we can highlight. So now 3504 is highlighted blue, and you can highlight multiple teams, the same color, as well as highlighting multiple teams into different colors. So we can see here that we have any number of highlights, any number of teams. So something that I personally like to do when I run our scouting meetings is I like to basically use black to cross out teams that I'm not interested in picking anymore in playoffs. So I could highlight that. And then if we were to look at total score, so this is where we get our rankings. And we can see that here's 1507, here's 3504, and here's 2010, but we're not interested in them for some reason. So that is how our highlight works. And what is total score? Total score takes the team and their total points and averages them over the total number of matches they played. And this is true for any of these individual things. So that involve points. So example, auto lower hub. You can get rankings for any of this. So all these teams are averaging one ball in the lower hub in auto, and all these teams are averaging two. Where this is different is if we look at performance defense. So performance defense is either you do it or you don't. So this is a percentile. And in this case, all these teams have played defense in every single one of their matches, and all these teams haven't. This is also true if we were to look at climb. So we can look at and climb traversal. And all these teams climb traversal. Now, this also happens for performance. So basically, if we go back to scouting, and let's just select another random match and a random team. And if we were to look, anything with a plus minus is going to take the average, and anything with a dot will take a percentage. Now this allows us to get the most accurate data accessible. So let's say in this game, this team just low climbed. Sure, that happened. Okay, now we can look at tables. Tables is very similar to rankings, except it just allows us a little bit of a different format. And a cool thing that you can do is you can highlight everything, and you just go through and highlight every single thing, and you can create a Excel spreadsheet with it, which I'm not going to do, but just to give you an example. So all these come up in a line like this, and then you can highlight everything and slide it all into a Google spreadsheet. Now, what this allows you to do, or more particularly if you use Excel, you can then use all your data while offline. So if you're at a match where Wi-Fi is not used, this allows you to use a scouting app because it is an online source. We also have a match predictor. So match predictor allows us to take a match and predict what the score is going to be based off the points on the team. So let's take match 1. And select match 1, and here are the 3 teams that are in match 1. And we can predict winner. And this will say that the Red Alliance is going to win over the Blue Alliance with a score of 93 to 72. Now, how does the match predictor work? Well, it's pretty simple. The match predictor takes the rankings of those teams and takes their total scores and adds them together and then divides by 3. And it takes the average score, basically, of all 3 robots combined and puts them together, and that is how you get your ranking and your match prediction. The last thing on the app is the team info. So team info allows you to compare 2 teams. So let's pick team 191 and team, let's pick 1507. Okay, so you can get data, and both of these teams have only played 1 game, but this will give you an example of what it does. So here's game 1, and team 191 scored 10 points in auto, and 1507 scored 18 points. Now, had team 191 played 2 games, a second score would appear here. And had team 191 played 2 games, a second score would appear here and appear here for 1507. And you could compare the total scores or where they were scoring for each individual thing. Now, again, why is all of this useful? All of this is useful because at the end of the day, when you look at ranking points of teams, it will not line up with our total score. It will be different because ranks are not just taken from total score. So, this is all important because it allows us to get a better understanding of which robots are actually the best. And if we were interested in robots who could play defense, we could look at the robots who play defense. So, if we're looking for a good robot that we want who can shoot and play defense and say high climb, 3504 becomes our immediate choice. They can play defense and high climb, and they also are averaging 34 points a game, which is really good, as we can see in the top 8. So, that is something that we could pick. Now, 3504 could be really low in the rankings. They can get stuck in matches with some less good teams, or maybe they played 1405 and 340 at the same time and just got overwhelmed. But we can look at 3504 and say, okay, 3504 is a great team and we want them on our alliance for these reasons. And that's what the scouting app does that is different from just the ranking system.